Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Arcade Crusade. In today's episode, we are going to continue working on the Twilight Zone pinball. This will be part 4 in the Twilight Zone restoration series, and we're mainly going to focus on tearing down the playfield today. I originally was thinking about doing LEDs first, but I'd rather tear down the playfield, clean everything, get it waxed up, and then I'll actually be able to do some of the GI LEDs from the top of the playfield instead of having to do them from underneath. So this episode, we're mainly going to focus on tearing down the top of the playfield and just getting it to a point where we can clean everything, replace star posts, replace rubbers, everything like that. So I got the tripod set up, and the first thing we're going to do is remove both of the wireform ramps. And Twilight Zone has 2 wireforms, one on the right side for the shooter lane, and this is actually like, you know, during multi-ball and things like that, kicks the ball down here. So I'm just gonna remove this one first, and then it has another one that it's for the left ramp, and it's what shoots the ball back to the flipper. So what I normally do when I take these off, I put the screws back in the post once I get the wireform off. This way I know what screws go to which ramp, and it keeps the screws with it. I just find this is an easier way for me not to lose parts. Another good thing to do is when you're tearing down a playfield, I suggest you get a bunch of Ziplocs and a Sharpie, and you just label where each screw came from. So like if you're taking the right slingshot apart, right sling on a bag, and it has the plastic, your 2 star posts for it, and your nuts for it. And just do that and you'll be set. All right, so that is that wireform completely out. Just take it out, put it on the ground for now. I'm just tightening the post that was in. I'm just gonna put this screw back in there for now and put both of these back on the wireform. And this way, I mean, yeah, it's more work in the long run, because I'm just hand tightening these though, you know. I'm not cranking them down. It's more work in the long run because I have to pull the screws out when I go to put it back down, but this way I don't lose any of the hardware, and I find it's easier for me to do it this way. I don't like taking everything apart and just have a pile of parts that I have to work through. It's not fun to do it that way. All right, and then the other wireform we need to take off the nut side first, and we'll see what size that is. This looks to be 11/32. Yeah, it is. Entire post came out, and that's always fun. All right, let's see if we can hold this. All right, well, I'm gonna have to get a wrench. We'll at least tighten this back onto the playfield. Sometimes with these posts, you got to get a wrench to go underneath to keep that post in place. So let me get the right size wrench. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get the top of the wireform off, and then I'll find the correct size wrench we need for that. And guys, when you're taking this stuff apart, make sure you take pictures along the way. There's a little connector for the gumball sign. Go ahead and disconnect that. It'll need to be disconnected when we take the ramp off. So we got the gumball sign off. You can change both bulbs on here for this. And all right, there we go. So now that ramp is completely off. What I'm gonna do is put this back on the way it was. All right, so that's hand tight, and then we'll just drop this in and do the exact same thing here. All right, so now that is at least back together, and all we need to do, let's see if we can loosen that by hand. All right, and this ramp actually has a little gap in it so you can get it off. So I got the nut loosened enough for me to be able to slide this ramp off. So that's both wire forms off, completely out of the way now, and the hardware is taken care of, so we don't need to worry about that. Just tighten this down again so it's not all contorted. All right, so now that we got the gumball sign taken off and both wire forms out of the way, we pretty much have an open playfield to work with. No loose hardware here. We got this disconnected. So now let me lift up the playfield, and there are some connectors we need to disconnect, and I already labeled and disconnected them. But the ones we want to disconnect, so we need to take off the upper playfield, and to take that off, you got to take the connectors off, and then we can start taking off the upper playfield. Let me zoom in for you guys. All right, so right there, coming down the left side of the back side of this playfield, we have 4 connectors. All 4 of these connectors, and I labeled both sides of the connectors A, B, C, and D, so when I go to plug these back in, I won't have any issue knowing which go to which. I mean, they're all different pins, except for B and C. You could mix up B and C, but the wires are color coded, so and B has a little bit thicker gauge wire than C, so it's hard to mix these up, but I like to label them just for ease, but label them with Sharpie on both sides, disconnect them. These 4 are for your upper playfield. So now our upper playfield's good to come off. And then I'm not gonna remove the steel ramp because you don't need to remove the steel ramp on Twilight Zone, but you do need to remove the big plastic ramp in the back side of the game. And to remove the plastic ramp, there's 3 connectors in the bottom right and 1 towards the middle of the playfield. The bottom right ones are down through the bottom right hole, and I labeled those 1, 2, and 3. So it's these 3 connectors right here, and I labeled both sides 1, 2, and 3, disconnected them. And then actually, if we move over a little bit, you can see number 4 right there. That is our 4th connector. This is for the switch gate on the ramp entry. There's another connector that goes through that middle hole. It's this one here. I'm pretty sure that's for the steel ramp opto. I don't think we need to disconnect that one. I think it's just these 3 in the bottom right and this one in the middle here, number 4, that I labeled. So that should be everything we need to do underneath the playfield. So now we can focus on taking off the upper playfield from the top of the playfield, and then we can take off the big plastic ramp. So let me pull this down. All right, so they say, and I've never taken an upper playfield off a Twilight Zone before, but they say to take the upper playfield off, you need to remove, there's a screw. There's a screw that connects the steel ramp wireform to the upper playfield. And then there's 2 nuts you're supposed to loosen, and it's supposed to just slide right back. So let me get the camera set up there. There's a screw back here behind the street light, and they say take that screw out. All right, so I got that screw out, this screw right here, and that basically makes it so now you can move the upper playfield so that this steel ramp isn't in the way. And we might need to loosen the one here, just so we have a, I'll loosen it a little bit, just so we have a little play to get it off. So I'm just gonna put this to the side. And then the other thing we need to do is they say you need to loosen both of these nuts right here. The ones on top, the star posts, they're on these brackets. If you loosen these, you're supposed to be able to slide the mini playfield off. So hopefully we can just loosen those. As much as we need to. And these are 11/32 as well. We got another one that wants to spin on us. Should be enough for us to slide out. Let's see if it'll slide. Okay, so we're completely loose there. I might loosen this just so we can spin it out of the way. Loosen more. All right, so we're almost off that. There's a wiring harness in the back that actually gets in the way from you being able to pull the steel ramp out of the way. Yeah, so once you get the steel ramp out of the way, now we're kind of at the point where we can just pull this thing out. So there it is, completely loose, and now we just need to, we just have to pull the harnesses through. All right, there's one. It's kind of a tight hole. You don't pull through that easily. All right, there's a second one. Third one and fourth one. So there it is. That is our mini playfield completely removed. So the only thing we had to take out was that one screw up top. You just have to loosen these two here, and then there's a screw on the wire form that just goes through up here and goes right into this wire form here, and that's all that has to be done. So I'm just gonna loosely put this back on so we don't lose this. All right, so now we can put our upper playfield to the side, and that's completely off. And the nice thing about the upper playfield is you can take it apart and completely rebuild it on the bench. And what I did is, let me show you guys. The bottom of this upper playfield has this like cardboard, and actually mine's in pretty good shape. Usually they aren't in that good a shape. But there's a guy on Pinside that makes a clear acrylic protector for the bottom of this. So you throw this cardboard out and put the clear acrylic on it. It's like 15 bucks. I bought it, so it's gonna be clear under here. And then it lets some light pass down into the lanes instead of blocking everything off. So we'll be putting that on as well when we take apart this playfield. And this playfield, you know, you're gonna clean it and wax it just like you would a normal playfield. And then yeah, you're just kind of left with that bracket that's here. And this comes off with just both of those nuts. Looks like some 1/4-inch wood screws on this, and then this just goes on here. I'm just gonna tighten it a little bit for now so it doesn't fall off. But we're gonna have to take that off to change that rubber and clean back there anyway, but it is pretty filthy back there. No one's ever taken that mini playfield off, I'm sure. All right, so now we're at a point where we just gotta remove the plastic ramp in the back. And step one of that is we will remove the wood screws at the ramp entry. There's 2 wood screws right there. And I may need a number 1 bit. I have a number 2 on here, so if this is too big, I may need a smaller bit. Yeah, I'm gonna need a smaller bit. All right, grab this bit. Hopefully, this should do it. Yep. So 1 wood screw on the right, 1 on the left. And these are the first 2 you remove. Just make sure you pull these out cleanly because these are wood holes in the bottom. And I might start a Ziploc for the ramp actually because there is a decent amount of hardware for this. All right, so both of those are out. Now I'm going to zoom out. I'm gonna pull the playfield forward because it'll be a lot easier to get the ramp out with the playfield pulled forward. So let me just do that. All right, playfield's forward, it's locked, and now we should be able to just come in here and get the ramp out. So let me get the camera a little bit taller. So there is a few different screws we need to undo to get this off. I believe they are, yeah, they're normal screws. And a couple on some brackets here. So, all right, that's a pretty good angle. There's a screw right here through this hole here. That is our first screw that comes off. and it's into a metal post there. This one isn't that easy to get to because there's a piece of plastic in the way, so I'm just gonna try to poke it through to my hand. And that actually worked out pretty well. All right, so we'll just put that aside. The other screw is back here on another metal post. Same thing, comes off nice and easy. All right, and then we got two more. Let me make sure you guys can see this before I just go and take it off. There's two more at this ramp diverter here. It connects to the metal ramp diverter, and we just take both of those off. And with those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 6 screws plus the wire forms we already took off in the beginning, our plastic ramp should be completely free to come off here. At least, you know, that's what we hope. And it would help if I push the diverter out of the way. Yeah, now we got our connector out down here. So that's completely out of the way. All right, we're free there. So now all we got to worry about is our connectors in the back of the playfield here. And I'm just gonna try to feed these through with my fingers from underneath. There we go, stuck on a zip tie. Now it should pull up no problem. Just pull them up one at a time, just like we did with the mini playfield. All right, let me zoom out. All right, and there it is. That's our entire ramp assembly pulled out. Like I said, it's a screw through here, screw up here, 2 right here, and then our wire form screws and the 2 entry screws that go into the wood. But now you can pretty much see with just a little bit of work, I don't know, that took maybe 10, 15 minutes to take all of that off, and now the entire playfield is exposed to where we can get to all of the plastics, clean them up, replace bulbs, and then it's just gonna be cleaning and waxing. I lost my wax when I moved. I don't know what happened to it. It seems like I lost a box of just like miscellaneous arcade and like garage stuff, just like cleaners and things like that. That's just, it's missing after I moved to the new house. So I don't have wax. I just ordered a new wax and some sponges for the wax from Amazon. So hopefully that should be here in like 2 days. But yeah, that's the main ramp off. So I'm gonna go ahead and lower the playfield again. And now we're at a point that we can start cleaning and tearing things down, replacing rubbers. We can get to bulbs from the top of the playfield. I'm just gonna get some Ziplocs ready, get my Sharpie ready. I'm gonna move these ramps into the other room. I might start cleaning these ramps so when we're ready to put everything back on, we can. So I'm just gonna cut it here and then we'll go from here. All right guys, so we got the ramp and the upper playfield put aside. I'm gonna clean those later off camera. I'll do the upper playfield on camera because that's gonna be a full teardown, waxing, putting in new flashers, new bulbs. We'll do that one on camera on the workbench, but I'll clean the ramp off camera because it's just gonna be soap and water and Novus just to get it nice and clean again. So we'll do those, but right now what I wanna focus on is we're just gonna tear down this whole lower part of the playfield. Tear everything down, clean it, and we don't want to put everything back together until we can fully wax this playfield. So I'm waiting in the mail for my wax, but first thing I'm going to take off is the ball guides here. These are just long screws, and there is 7 of them. This one up here, and then 3 on each of these. What I do when I take stuff apart is all of these screws are going to be the same on the ball guides. So I'm going to put all of this in one Ziploc that's labeled specifically for the ball guides. And then that's pretty much it. I wish I had, I used to have a bunch of small Ziplocs, and I ended up using all of them on the last couple of games I've done. But I had a bunch of small Ziplocs that I would label all this stuff. With these though, usually you can get them to stay in the plastic like this. So this can just come off as one complete piece. So that comes off, put it to the side, and then we're just gonna go through. So this one actually has a cracked plastic at the tip. I don't know, my plastics aren't too bad. This one's a little faded. I ended up noticing this one down here was scotch taped. It is cracked. So I would like to get a new one for that one. I'm kind of thinking about maybe I just get new plastics for the whole lower playfield, the slingshots, because up top they all look pretty good. But maybe just get from like here down new plastics. The slot machine one looks good. It's really just, these are a little bent up, this one's a little discolored, and that one's cracked. So we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to look online, see what plastic I can find to replace that. I wish I would have noticed that earlier, because then I could have had it on hand, but that's the way this stuff goes. It isn't completely necessary to take these off when you're doing a teardown. It's really based on what you want to tear down. I'm taking them off because it'll be easier to clean and wax the playfield with them off. And the bottom of the playfield, that's, you know, the ball end always ends up here. So you want to get a nice clean and wax job down here, because this is where your ball ends up. So yeah, now that's off. All right, so that's completely open now. Take off this lane guide. I believe the nuts on here are a 5/16, which is different from the 7/32 we've been using. These ones are a little bit smaller. This lane guide is cracked. I have a brand new one though, so we don't need to worry about that. Take this off. And then I just got to figure out how these themselves twist off. I can't remember from if it's under the playfield or if they just turn the way they are. If they don't turn I might just leave them for now and we'll figure it out. Now the key to getting off the slingshot plastics is, yeah, you're gonna want a, sorry, not 7/32, 11/32 ratchet on top, and then you are going to want a 5/16 underneath, and that way you can hold the nut while you're removing the other nut. That way your posts don't fully come out. So and what I do to stay organized, like at least with this little yellow lane guide, I can put both these nuts and the lane guide in a Ziploc bag. And I know this is just one I had left over for some parts in it. But now I know this is what goes to this. Now if I get these off, they will go in there as well. Just so we know what goes to what. It's much better to stay organized on this stuff. That's the wrong one. All right, and that's one slingshot plastic removed. And now we are going to come to the other side and do the same thing. Let me get my wrench. And these, I'm just going to put all of them in a Ziploc bag. right, so these rubbers can now come off, and these are garbage, so we can just discard these. We'll see. I should have ordered the smart way. So they originally had 2.5 inch rubbers on here. The manual calls for 2 inches. These 2.5s, they don't take that much stretching to get put on. So we'll see if the 2 inchers fit, but the manual calls for 2. If the 2s won't fit, then I'm gonna have to order 2.5s. And I should have just ordered 2.5s so I had them on hand. I'll see if I have some extras. I don't think I ordered extras though. So that's gonna suck if we need those. The other thing, we're gonna replace star posts so these can come off. All right, let me get a sandwich bag ready and put all this in one sandwich bag. So both plastics, and I just go through one by one each bag and just clean them. Both plastics, my nut, my washer, all in one bag. And now I'll take a picture of how this goes. That way when we go to take this, when we go to put this back together, we know exactly how everything goes. All right, so that's taken off now. And if you want, you could make 2 separate bags, one for right sling, one for left sling. The only difference between the two, at least on this one, is this one has the washer here, whereas the right side did not. So. Just get this one, and I'll polish all these up. I'll get them looking nice and clean, and then this star post can come off. And now just this star post. We'll just loosen this nut. Once you loosen the nut, that's pretty much it. Whole thing will come off. All right, so like I was saying, you can do the GI bulbs from the top of the Playfield. So you could just come in here and you can just push down on a bulb, twist, it comes out. So we will do, I got my box here with the bulbs I took out of the back box. So I'm just gonna take all these out because we're gonna have to put new LEDs in anyway. And these you just push down and give them a little twist. And it's really not super dirty. It is definitely where like the star posts were. Not a lot of insert wear on this game. No, not too bad insert wear wise. And then our rubbers are just gonna come off the same way, so. We can take this star post off here. We can take this plastic off there. Are they bolts? Yeah, they're both supposed to be doubles, and that one, it actually is missing. So both of these should be the same, so they should be able to go in the same Ziploc. Oh, and there's actually, this is a game where you can set the posts to 3 different settings. Looks like they had them on the lowest one. I'll see which is the best setting, if they're supposed to be in the middle, the top. I'm sure if you put them all the way up, that means they're all the way open, which makes drains more likely. And if you put them down here, the ball won't drain as much. The only thing is, when you put them down there, it's harder to nudge the ball out because you have a lot less room to wiggle. Yeah. This one might be stuck on something under the playfield. There might be a nut on this. Pull the playfield forward. Okay, well I see the 3 settings. Where is it on that side? Right by the special. Yeah, there's a nut on it. And for some odd reason, the other one didn't have a nut on it. Let me just make sure that one didn't have a nut. Just make sure there's nothing that fell in the bottom of our cabinet here. No, I don't see a nut. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't hear anything either, so. All right, for whatever reason, that one has a nut on top of it. Let me just see what size that is. Too small. Might have to sneak in here. Sneak through the coin door. This is not an easy spot to get to. Let's see if we can do it from down here. All right, there we go. Got the nut off. Yeah, you'll find that sometimes when taking these games apart. Sometimes things will have lock nuts, sometimes they won't. Makes no sense. So now this can just come out normally the same way the other one did. And I'll put these two can probably go in a Ziploc with the rocket plastic. They won't get mixed up. There we go. Yeah, maybe the end of it was stripped. They put a lock nut on it. I don't know. Stuff never makes sense. Okay, let me take a picture of this the way this is. Rocket can come off. Those rubbers are going to get replaced. And while you have this off, clean the slingshot arms. They get pretty dirty just from hitting rubber and all the grime from the solenoid over the years. So while you have it off, make sure you clean those as well. Get the one in the shooter lane. All right, shooter lane's out. All right, and one's off as well. Let me get Ziploc for these. All right, we'll just continue along. This is where our broken plastic is. And there's a nut on the underside of this one, so it's probably better if we can just take... Yeah, it's snapped. If we can just take this entire thing off in one piece. Let's see what size that is. That's too big. All right, it's 5/16. Oh. Well, that's in the bottom of the cabinet now. Yeah. Completely separate pieces. I guess that has a connector underneath as well. So let's lift up the Playfield again. Disconnect that and we'll find the nut that fell. All right, there's the nut that fell. And then I'll move the camera over. All right, it's this connector up here. And I'll just put an X on this one. Just on both sides of the connector. And then all right, and just pull it apart. Now we can just pull that through, and that plastic's now off, and I'll have to hunt down a new one of those because that is cracked clean. But yeah, it's got a little bulb inside of it, so let's unzoom, drop the Playfield down. Another star post to take off. I didn't check if this one had a nut underneath. Hopefully it doesn't. Let's put that with that. That's completely off now. Actually, let me take a picture with that there, just so I remember there was a star post there. All right, so yeah, there's a star post right here. That can just come out with one screw. There's no nut on the other side of it. So we can pull that off, put that with our plastic, grab another Ziploc. And yeah, like, I mean, I got a brand new bag, or a brand new box of sandwich bags here, and I'm just putting all of my related plastics and parts in one, you know, in their separate Ziploc bags, and then you can just stay organized with what goes where. So that's taken off. We can just continue removing rubbers here. And I have brand new star posts, so that's why I'm pulling all these off, even though I'd recommend you pull them off anyway because they have to get cleaned. All right. There's most of our rubbers off. Yeah, nice thing is a lot of the rubbers are on the lower part of the playfield. There isn't too many up top. This one can come off slot machine, and then it's just the piano ones. All right, that's one of the pianos off. It's not the easiest to get into this one. Just make sure we get photos of these. See if we can get that piano rubber off. Aside from our post sleeves, this is the only one. All right, it's dropped into the bottom of the cabinet. We'll get that. know what, while we're here, I'll take that bracket off as well. All right, so let me find it. 1/4 inch. All right, so there's 2 separate brackets. That one that goes on top of it, and then the main one here. 2 1/4 inch wood screws on the wood rail on the side here. And then we have our main nut here that goes on top of this. And that's on a spring. Don't want to lose that. Take a picture of the spring first, then the washer, then the rubber, so that can come off. Post sleeve can come off. And I'll put all that in a quart-sized bag. That should fit everything. I'll put those star posts we pulled off in there as well. All right, that is pretty much everything in the lower playfield taken off. We could take this plastic off and our slot machine plastic off, and then maybe we'll take the ball diverter off. It's probably attached under the playfield. All right, let me look under the playfield and see how it's attached. Yeah, it's attached under the playfield with 2 wood screws. So I'll just lift this up and we'll take that off as well. So just these 2 wood screws here, 1/4 inch like always. While we have this up, we should find that, there's that rubber that fell. All right. Probably would have been smarter to remove these first, then the screw from on top, so it wouldn't be loose when I'm taking these off, but it is what it is. All right, so now that'll pull right off, and there's actually some like rust on this, so we'll have to polish that up. All right, so like I was saying, these we will just get to from underneath because it has a bulb in here. So I'll just clean both sides of this plastic, replace the bulb in here. We will have to take a little bit apart with this one because you need to take off, I think, both of these lane guides to get the Cliffy on for the slot scoop. So while we have that apart, I'll clean it with some Novus, wipe it down with some alcohol. We'll put the slot scoop on while we have it apart. But That can go like that for now, that like that for now. Yeah, I think I'll go grab my Novus and a rag, and we'll just start wiping down this playfield with the way everything is right now. All right, so I went and grabbed my Novus 2 and the microfiber I've been using to clean up this game. It's a little dirty, so if we gotta get another microfiber, we will. Just to be aware, guys, Novus 2 is abrasive. This is what I use to clean plastics, some playfields. There's also Novus 1, which I'm out of right now. I don't have Novus 1, so I'm just gonna use Novus 2 on this game. It's a clear-coated playfield. I'm confident with it. On older games, it can be a little bit more abrasive on non-clear coated things, so it can actually wear away paint and stuff. So be careful with Novus 2, use it sparingly. Basically, I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna clean up the entire playfield. We're gonna clean up plastics, all the metal ramps, any of the metal. We're just gonna wipe down anything that we can and get it nice and shiny while we have this out. So we're just gonna go through, get ready for waxing and do that. Once we get everything clean, we can put our Cliffies on, and then we can start replacing bulbs as we put some of the lower playfield stuff back on, but that'll be after waxing. So right now, we're just gonna completely clean the playfield. So I'm gonna turn the mic off, and we are just gonna time lapse this. All right, so we're at the point where we have the entire playfield sparkly clean, completely wiped down with Novus 2. I got all the post, pop bumper skirts, all of the playfield, all of the ball guides. Everything on this game has been wiped down, and it is sparkling clean. I even went and I wiped down the gumball machine. I took all the plastics off in the back of the playfield. The only bulbs I replaced, there is a flasher under this plastic. I replaced that, and then I replaced the 3 flashers that are stacked up by the gumball machine. That's the only thing I've replaced right now. We will do some bulbs on the top of the playfield, the pop bumpers back by the guides, and then the rest of the bulbs we'll do underneath the playfield. So now we're at a point where we can wax this entire game. And what I use, so there's a lot of people, they debate all different waxes, how to do it, the right way to do it. The one correct thing that everybody says is you should always use a paste carnauba wax. Don't use the liquid. The liquid has silicone additives and a few other materials that just give off what is a fake shine, and it's not a true protective wax. Yeah, it'll protect, but for not that long. I use P21S carnauba wax. They make another one I think called P100. This is a paste carnauba wax. Meguiar's, Mother's, Blitz, any of the major brands will work. I like this one. I find it works best on pinballs. I have used Mother's before, and I've used Blitz before. Blitz was good, but it was definitely harder to put on. This stuff goes on like butter. You leave it on for 20 minutes, and then wipe down the haze once it's done hazing. That's pretty much all you have to do with this wax. I find it's very shiny. It lasts about the same amount of time as Blitz. So the way I do it is I have these like foam applicators, and I just kind of bend it like this, put my index finger behind it, and I just kind of rub it around in the wax, and then I just spread a nice even coat of wax throughout the entire playfield. And in some of the tighter areas, I'll just use 2 fingers, and I'll just come in, like I'll just come in here with my 2 fingers so I don't completely muck up the ball guides with wax. And if you guys are doing this to a game that still has, a game that's still together and still has star posts on it, you'll see a lot of star posts in the wild that are mucked up with wax, and it's because someone wasn't paying attention when they waxed it. So when you're around star posts, just use 2 fingers and just kind of rub around where the star posts are at so you don't completely muck those up. But yeah, so we'll just get some wax on our applicator, and we're gonna spread wax all over this game. And once we get it fully waxed, all the areas, shooter lane, everywhere waxed, we'll leave it for 20 minutes. When it starts hazing over, we'll come back with a microfiber and we'll wipe off the wax that is hazed over. And then that's a nice clean coat of wax. Another thing people always talk about is how many coats of wax should I do? And there was a guy out there that did a study, and he did it on cars, and he used a micrometer, and he checked how much wax was on the car after each coat. First coat of wax, it was a nice, good layer of wax on the car. The second coat, about the same amount. The only advantage of going twice is you may have covered areas you missed. And then by the third coat, he had less wax than he originally had. So what I always do is I do 1 good, nice, thick coat of wax. And I don't mean really thick, just a full coat of wax throughout the entire game. And then I know I've covered all areas and I have the right amount on. I let that sit for 20 minutes and wipe it off. So we'll just go ahead and we'll start waxing this and come back in about 20 minutes and wipe it off. So we'll get started. All right, that's pretty much the entire bottom half of the game. And now we're just gonna, just continue working our way up. Just be careful around the cliffies you installed, all your switches. You don't wanna muck all these things up. But yeah, that's a nice good wax. And if you over apply, whatever you over apply is gonna haze up, and you'll be able to just come back over it and wipe it off. So don't be too nervous about over applying. All right, we'll add a little bit more wax here. All right, so I'm just gonna go through and continue waxing this. We can time lapse this. I don't really need to go through it, but just take your felt applicator with some wax on it and just spread it around the whole game, let it sit for 20, and then wipe it off. All right, so I gave it about 20-25 minutes and I let the wax sit, and if you get close to it with a light, you can see it starting to haze over. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in with a microfiber towel, and we are just gonna wipe off the wax residue that is left on the playfield. And once we do that, game is ready for play, so we're good and fully waxed there. So yeah, you're just gonna come in with your microfiber and just kind of wipe up all the wax, and it's good to wipe a little bit and then change the position you're wiping from. And yeah, that's all you got to do. So. So now that we have the playfield entirely waxed, we got the wax wiped off, it's ready for, a good game, we're at a point where we can start putting the LEDs onto the playfield, at least the ones that are available to us, the pop bumpers and such. So we can put the LEDs in and then start putting all the rubbers and plastics back together. Once we do that, then we can put the main ramp back on, and then we're kind of in a place where we can just start putting everything back together, put LEDs on the game, and we're almost done. So where I'm going to start is I have some 44 base frosted natural white, which is Comet's cool white. They call it natural white. And I'm just going to put these in all the places on the playfield that we took bulbs out of. You can do this from under the playfield, you can do this from above the playfield. I find it is, when you're doing these and you already have all these plastics pulled off, it's a lot faster to do it above the playfield than it is to do it below. So you're just going to go through to each socket, give it a push down and twist in, and just make sure you're solid on all of those. You know, and if it turns out any of these are bad bulbs or they don't work, we can just go under the Playfield and swap these out. But while you have these plastics pulled out, you might as well do this. All right, so that's all the main lower Playfield ones. That is just the hole where that goes through. There's a couple back here. So we'll just take the old ones out. It's a little bit tighter to get in here because we're in between two ball guides. But basically my plan of attack here is that we'll do all of the GI, we'll do all the GI bulbs up until the slot machine from the top of the Playfield, and then everything that's past the slot machine we'll do from underneath the Playfield. That way we know what we have and haven't done. And it just happens to be that, you know, those plastics, I only took the plastics there off to clean them and then put them back on the machine. So that was kind of it for those plastics. This one doesn't want to turn. Forgot to turn my light on. That would help. Oh yeah, so there's one here and then there's two behind this pop bumper up here. We got all the ones here, all the ones here. And I believe that's pretty much it except for the pop bumper bulbs. The pop bumper bulbs are gonna be a 555 base. That one all the way in. And when it comes to GI, I always put frosted white in because your eyes are going to be looking directly at them. You don't want to get blinded out by these bulbs, so. We could do the two behind the ramp up here. Actually, I'll do those as well, and I'll just make a mental note that we change the ones right next to the ramp hole. That way we don't have to do those. All right, now those two are swapped out. We can also do our slot machine and our piano ones. There's also one here that's on the mini Playfield. We'll do that when we tear the mini Playfield apart. So let's do those colored ones. Let me find my yellow. Here we go. Frosted lens yellow. And that's what we're gonna do for the slot machine. I don't put the bulb covers back on. Some people put the bulb covers back on. They just get clear, cool white, and then they put the bulb cover back on. I like a look of just putting these new LEDs in. So I got a yellow LED right there. And then we are gonna do the same for the jackpot and the piano mode start shot. These two are both 555, so they just pull right out. And let's not mix those up as to which was which. Let me make sure I'm putting this back in the way that it was. Okay, yeah, so yellow is the front one, so we'll just do yellow for now. And yeah, guys, when you're taking your games apart, take a bunch of pictures. You know, may crowd up your camera roll just for, you know, the month you're working on the game or however long it takes you to work on your game. But you can delete the pictures when you're done, and it's fully worth it, because if you forget to take pictures of something, you'll just be looking through like Pinside for sale listings, restoration threads, trying to figure out where this part you took off even went. And I mean, there's even some things that I don't even remember how they go back on the playfield, and that's why I took pictures, so I know where things go. Like some posts, I don't remember where some of the double posts were, some of the single posts. I know how many I need to put on the playfield, but I don't know exactly where they go. All right, so there is our red in the back, yellow in the front. Both of those are swapped out. And I think that is everything below the slot machine. I think that's everything. So now we just got to do the 3 pop bumper bulbs, and those are going to be the 555 frosted. I should have color matched them or done something cooler. Color matching would have been nice if I went with a yellow, red, and orange, but I'm gonna put cool white in there. If we don't like how they look, I can always order more bulbs, and we can color match them the correct way. There is a correct way to put your pop bumper caps on, because the circuits are actually wired to however you shoot the skill shot there. And I want to say it's yellow, orange, red, like that. And I'll check my notes to make sure. But there is a correct way to put these pop bumper caps on, and you're gonna want to do that. The leads on these things, they flex a little bit, so when you're putting the bulb in, just kind of hold it with one hand. And like I said in the back box LEDs video, when we were putting those in, you just want to bend these leads to the sides just to make sure that they make good contact when you're putting them in. Here we go. That one's all the way in now. This one really wants to bend. All right, and that's the 3 of those. Now we can put the pop bumper caps back on. Let me check my notes to make sure we're doing this the right way. So yellow goes on the bottom. And then I cleaned these, when I took these off, I cleaned these with Novus as well when I was doing everything else. The upper left pop bumper is red, and then the right one is orange. So it'll go just like this. And then we'll get the orange out. This will go right back on. I hate these tiny screws. All right, there's all the screws. Let me just get a small bit on my screwdriver for those. And we'll screw these on real quick. All right, so we got all three of them snugged up, so just go through each one, get them nice and tight, not too tight. It is just plastic that, well, it's plastic that you're on top of, and actually plastic that you're screwing into. The skirt of the pop bumper on the inside is plastic as well. So you don't need to hammer these things in. All right, those are on, all three of them nice and solid in the correct order. Top left red, top right orange, bottom yellow. We can go ahead and put the, we can start doing some of the rubbers, and we can do the post sleeves real easily because most of them are accessible. I'll have to get to these back two. Those will be easy though. So I'm gonna put purple here. I thought purple looked pretty sharp. I saw it on some games. Purple matches the purple that's there, and it also matches the rocket ship plastic has some purple on it. So I did purple there. And then I'm doing blue up underneath the mini Playfield. The reason I'm doing blue there is it blends in with the blue of the Playfield so it doesn't stick out so much. And then we will do two black ones up there because that's, you know, right in eyesight back of the game. So I'll take the screw off this one. Feels like this thing is like stuck on here. I need a pair of pliers to get this thing off. Yeah, that thing's like gunked on there. Wow. I mean, usually post rubbers are bad, but this one is completely dried out. There we go. It's starting to budge now. There we go. As I almost break the clock off. See if we can squeeze our new one in here. should be doable to just sneak around those. Yeah, you just got to give it some pressure. Almost there. Yeah, it just flattens out a little bit where the metal ramp and the ball guide for the lock shot are right there. So you just gotta squeeze this rubber between those. All right, so we got that one on. All right, screws nice and tight there. Now we gotta loosen this one. This one has a washer with it, and it's attached to the ramp that leads to the upper playfield. Get that out of the way, and we will just sneak in here with the new one, and it's on. There we go, fully on. And we're not going to fully tighten this one, we're just going to get it in a fair amount, but we still want to be able to slide this back and forth because we need the play in it when we go to put our upper playfield back on. So we want to be able to slide it like that. So that's good the way that is. That's all. Twilight Zone is a game that only has 5 post sleeves, so it's the 2 black ones back here. I got a blue one right there, and the 2 purple there. And if you noticed, I already put our ball guide back on just because it's 2 screws under the playfield and then 1 for this small plastic on top. So it's not really worth showing that. I already put the ball guide back on. We can do, I guess we could do the rocket plastic and then start working our way down with stuff. Yeah, maybe we'll get the mounting bracket for that on. We'll do the rocket plastic, get the mounting bracket for that on, start getting all these posts and rubbers on down here. So let me find the bag with the rocket. All right, and let me reference my picture for how this ball guide goes on. Okay. Ball guide goes on just like that, and then our rocket plastic goes on like that, and there is no bulb or anything in there. And when I took all these plastics off, they all got cleaned with Novus 2 and I can actually adjust how that sits, huh? I don't know how it was originally. I should have a picture of that. Okay, yeah. Originally it was pretty much pushed all the way out. So maybe not exactly all the way, but it was pretty close to being all the way out. Looks pretty even there. All right, and there's our new post sleeves and rocket plastic back on, and we got our Cliffy on the rocket, so that is completely back together and rebuilt. Now we're at a point that we can put on the upper Playfield mounts. I believe I got all the parts I need for it. Let me just double check and check my picture. Okay, I think the washer goes on the rubber side. Yeah, washer first, then the spring. Then this is going to go on just like this. All right, so we can put these aside for now. All right, so we got our spring compressed, and we can put our wood screws back on for this. We can put the top one in, and then our second bracket for the upper Playfield goes in the bottom of the two holes. Let me just double check my picture here. Yep, so that goes just like so. All right, and these are just 1/4-inch wood screws, like everything else has been that goes into a screw on a pinball machine. bigger one for that. Hopefully it's this size. Don't exactly know how compressed it was. Don't think it was that compressed. I think we'll know better once we get our upper playfield on, so I think that's good for now. Now we can just start with our posts. We can start with the small inner diameter posts, and I'm gonna do a light blue one on this shooter lane right here to match our shooter rod. And these are easy, they just slide over the top and go on. So anywhere in the game that we have small posts like this, and I'll just go through my pictures and check where we had just single ones. So there was one right above this plastic right here. One, well, three around the pop bumpers right here. And I went ahead and I went with clear rubbers. I've seen it on a few Twilight Zones and I thought the clear looked pretty good and it kind of fits the theme pretty well instead of doing, you know, a bunch of colors everywhere, because sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. I just kept it simple and I went with clear. All right, and then there's three of them over here. So you got the one up here by the end of the shooter lane. Which seems like it's kind of loose. I should make sure our piano shot is nice and tight. See if we have the right size. No, it's too large. Yeah, they might be 1/4 inch. I don't know if I have a small enough wrench. Actually, I should check my wrenches here. This looks to be 1/4. There we go. We'll just do the same on this one. I should have done this when I didn't have the ball gate on. May have to use a 1/4 inch deep well. We'll see. This should work. Okay. I think just those two were loose. But yeah, all the small 7/16 rubbers, you're going to find them just on these little pointy posts throughout the playfield. So one here right by this third flipper, one by the slot machine here, this one isn't the easiest to get on. All right, there we go. There's one up on the back side of the slot machine under that plastic. And what I do when I put these on, I put them on and then I spin them just to make sure that they're fully in their groove. And then there's two up by the piano shot here. All right, so I went and checked the manual, the lane guide here, the yellow lane guide. I got a brand new one for it because mine was cracked, but these posts are the same 7/16 bumpers that all the other posts take. You got to force them on a little bit, but that is right. These are the 7/16 inner diameter, which is a bigger rubber, double of those there, so I got those on as well. And now we can start with what is near the back of the game. And it's just going to be a double post with 5/16 rubber on it. And that is the one that goes back behind the red pop bumper here. So we can just get this one started by hand. And then get this one fully on. And then there's going to be two more double posts that are connected by, I want to say it's a 1 1/4. 1 1/4 rubber ring, I want to say. All right, so that's nice and tight. We will get two more double posts, and then we got to figure out what is a 1 1/4 here, because I do not know. It's probably both of these. I'm just going to use the light here. All right, well, that's definitely one of the 1 1/4s. And that is two. Okay, and then we just need two of these double posts and two of our screws that we took off from the old double posts. And I always recommend, I mean, these are brand new double star posts from Pinball Life. I always recommend get new ones. They're cheap and they vastly improve the look of your game rather than looking at old yellowed ones, especially because almost all star posts are clear, so there's no reason not to. Might have to take that pop bumper cap off. I did not think of that when I put it on. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to take it off because I think it's gonna be too tight of a fit to try and get a rubber. Yeah, we're gonna take this off. We're gonna need a smaller bit. Orange pop bumper cap has to come off. You can get the one behind the red in with the cap on, but this one you cannot. So this one's coming off. All right, both of those off. Put that down there. All right, we are now at a point where we can get both of these somewhat tight. We don't have to get them super tight because we still got to put rubbers on, so having a little bit of play wouldn't be the worst thing. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so we got 1 1/4 double rubbers that are gonna go on here. Actually, oh, I think these use 1-inchers. I think the manual is wrong. So let me see if these are run inchers. Yeah, this is the spot where the manual is wrong. It says 1 1/4 in the manual, but you're supposed to use just a plain 1 inch. And luckily, Titan and most manufacturers will mark what size they are. Yeah, this is the correct size. The 1 1/4 far too big for that to work. All right, so we can fully tighten these down. These should go on no problem. All right, so make note of that. I kind of forgot when I was doing this, but the manual is wrong for these two. It says 1 1/4, but these two are definitely not 1 1/4. They are 1 inch. And also make note that you need to take off that pop bumper because I forgot about that. All right, there we go. And that's both of them on. We'll make sure we're completely tight here. Just get everything snugged up. All right, that's completely snug. Now we can get this back on. And now we're pretty much at a point where all we have left is we got to put the lane guides on and the slingshots. And there's 2 posts here, which will not take long at all to put on. And then our slingshots and our main lane guides. The lane guides we'll do last. We'll do the slingshots next. I may have to clean some stuff. I can't remember if I cleaned the posts, the metal posts for the slingshots. Thought I did, but I may have forgotten because they weren't on the playfield. So all right, pop bumpers back on. We can put our 2 main posts on. And for some odd reason, one of them had a nut under the playfield, so if it ends up being loose, we'll put that nut back on. I actually picked up a second nut just in case. Just in case that was the issue. So these were in the bottom of the 3. All right, so I got the rubber rings on the roof plastic here. These are 2.5-inch rings. And then I went ahead and got the posts, and I got all 3 posts on each sling, all tightened up, ready to go, brand new star post there. On the right sling right now, I have a 2.5-inch rubber, and it's got a lot of play in it, and it's not too tight. This one, I really had no trouble getting the 2-inch rubber on it, and it's nice and snappy. It still has some play, but it feels like how they should. So I do think the correct size, I mean, look at how easy that rubber comes off. I do think the correct size for sling rubbers on Twilight Zone is 2 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another 2-inch on this one, and it does take a little bit of stretching, but I mean, make sure we're not stretching the leaf there. Takes a little bit of stretching, but it goes on pretty easy. That really isn't too bad. We can slide these. You know, that seems like how they should be. So. All right, so those are on. We can put our sling plastics on. That one there, and I may end up getting new sling plastics. Mine are in pretty good shape, but they do have some wear on them. Let me check. I have some washers, and there may have been one washer that was underneath this sling. Let me just double check here. Okay, both on the right side did not have washers, so we can at least get the nuts for the right side on. And now I just got to figure out for the left side where exactly the washers went and see if I can find a picture. It's like one washer on top. All right, I'm gonna do it how I think it should be done, and that would be a washer on top the plastic, and then a washer on top the, so where the wire form is going to come, the wire form is gonna go on, then the washer, then another nut to tighten down the wire form. I think that is the right way to put these on. And now that we have our slings on, that's all of our plastics. We got the entire Playfield back together, and we can go get the ramp, the main ramp for the game, and put that on. Wrong size. Make sure these are lined up. Nice and tight there. And we're just going to do the same thing with this plastic. I'm just putting that one there for now because it will need to move when we get the wire form back on. So that's fine for now. Now we can just put both of our lane guides on. One goes here and the other one goes over here. We'll just grab our screwdriver and put these back on. And I'm just going screw by screw and tightening these into the Playfield one by one. That screw doesn't want to go in right. I don't know if we're missing our hole or what's going on. There, now we're in the hole. Let's see if the screw wants to go in now. It's still pushing out on me, so I'm just gonna pull these back. Maybe we'll do that one first because that one's having trouble. Okay, that one started now. You just want to make sure, I'm pulling these back a little bit just to make sure that the threads line up. It looks like all 4 of them are in now. None of them are fighting me. Alright, we'll come back to those and tighten those, but that's good now. And we will just get this one tightened up. We'll do the middle one first, and once we know that one started, we should be pretty well lined up. Alright, that one's going no problem. Alright, all 3 of them, no problem at all. Now, I may just leave these plastics on, because this one also, the corner of it has been repaired. Somebody like epoxied it. So I ordered a new one of this and a new one of this. And I may just leave these ones on, and once they fully crack and really break, then I'll put the new replacements on that I have. And that almost seems like a better solution. So I'm just gonna snug this plastic up. Alright, those are nice and snug. And we'll just come back to this side and do the exact same thing. That one's nice and tight. That one's nice and tight. All right, those are all nice and tight, and that is all of our plastics back on the game. I will go grab the main ramp, and then we'll get ready to put the main ramp back on the game. And once we get that on, I might finish this episode off by doing the backboard decal. We'll take off the backboard, put the decal on, put the backboard back on, and then next episode we can rebuild the entire mini playfield, put it back on, and then finish off the LED job, and that's the rest of the game. So just give me a second, I'll grab the the main ramp for the game. We'll put that on and go from there. All right, guys, so I got the main ramp back onto the game. I fed all the wires down through the holes into the bottom of the playfield. There's 3 back here, 1 here for this ramp gate right there. So now we got it back on, and we just got to put the screws back on. So we have 2 screws by the ball diverter here. And I'm just going to get all these hand tight before we tighten anything down, because I don't want any sort of force pulling on this ramp that will restrict us from getting it into other holes. Just tighten this one down. Again, not all the way. We want a little bit of play. And then we have 1 through this hole here. And actually, I might have to feed it through. I should have thought about this beforehand before putting that protector on. All right, we'll see if we can get in here maybe from the side or something like that. I guess what I could do is just take this off and then sneak in here with this, try to get it hand started, or at least get the screw through here. And actually, I guess I'll take off my flasher as well. We'll just put the flasher up there for now. All right, there we go. It wasn't the easiest to get in there, but now we're in. We can put our flasher back in, tighten that back. All right, and now we have, and I'll need my smaller screwdriver for this. I'll go to the other side. We just got to get the 2 wood screws in, and I put these in a small Ziploc so I didn't lose them. These 2 wood screws just got to go down here to actually push the ramp down. And once we get those in, then I'll go through and tighten the rest of the ramp. So we'll just do 1 to start. It would just be easier to push the ramp down. Start it by hand. I may need a longer screwdriver for this. Let's see, I might just be able to grab the smaller bit. Yeah, this one will work. I don't know if this bit will work. We'll need the smaller bit for this screwdriver. there's both wood screws hand started. Let me grab the correct bit for this. There we go. All right, so we got the correct bit now, and you just want to make sure when you put these in, you put them in nice and straight, like so. All right, we got them snug. I will come back and tighten them once we get the rest of the ramp tightened. So we'll just get all of these snugged. All right, those are all snugged. We'll take the number 1 bit for the wood screws, get these a little bit tighter, mainly we don't want them snagging the ball. All right, both of those are nice and tight, just how we want them to be. And now we will just tighten up the rest of these screws, and our main ramp is back on the game. And all we have to do is hook up the connectors for it. All right, no problem there. All right, there we go, nice and tight. So that is the main ramp back on the game. And let's go ahead and lift the playfield, and we will just quickly connect all of our connectors here. So we'll do the one in the middle of the playfield first. There's a hole down here by the gumball popper, and our connection is right here. And there we go, hooked back up the way it should be. Let's make sure it's out of the way of that switch. Okay, that's right. And now, focus a little bit lower to the ones down here. And there's 3 of them. And like I said before, I labeled them 1, 2, and 3. So this will be really easy for 1, 2, 3, and yeah, 1, 2, and 3. So this will be very easy to put them back on because there's only one way these can go. All right, so there's 3 hooked up. We will get 2 hooked up. There's 2 hooked up. And now number 1. And there we go. All 4 connectors for the ramp are back together just like that because we labeled them. You label them on the same side, you don't even have to pay attention. They go right back together, easy as that. So now what I want to do is take off the backboard for the game. And to take the backboard off, we might have to move this solenoid here, but there is 1, 2, 1 under this one, so that's 3, 4, 5 screws that hold that backboard on. And then there's actually 2 nuts that are behind the backboard. There was actually 4, 2 on each side. So take those nuts off first, and then go ahead and take those 5 wood screws out. There's no really good way to film this, and it's pretty straightforward. So just those 5 screws on the bottom of the playfield, and I'll turn and show you one of them. So one of them is right here. There's another right here, and there's 4 nuts on the back. That is what it takes to get the backboard off. I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then we will apply the decal together. So I'll get that backboard off, and then we'll get working on that. All right, guys, so we're over at the workbench. I went ahead and I cleaned the backboard with some Windex. Just got it nice and clean, got all the dirt off of it that has been there for the last 20 years. I got it resting on a couple towels right now, just because it has some bolts through the back of it. And now we are going to be applying a backboard decal. There isn't a ton of information for the backboard decal application online, which is kind of annoying when you're trying to figure out how to do this, but this is how I do it. This is normally how I do arcade artwork as well. A few things you're gonna need. So you don't necessarily need this, but I use this for arcade art, pinball art, whatever. It is a 3M vinyl applicator, and this is basically just like a vinyl squeegee, and it has a felt tip on the end of it so you don't dig into your artwork. This is just an X-Acto knife, and then we're gonna use some painter's tape to line up our decal. So first thing I like to do, and one thing is these decals, or at least this one that I have, is cut smaller than the actual board itself. So I'm just gonna get it lined up on the sides, get it somewhat straight. This doesn't have to be perfect, it's in the back of the game, there's a lot of stuff in the way of it, but just get it, you know, decent, and just get it lined up on the sides, and near, you want it at the top. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start, I'm gonna only do half the decal. I'm gonna do the dry method. I don't use the wet method. I use the dry method when I apply decals. And I cut off half the backing, apply half the decal, then I pull off the rest of the backing and apply the rest of it. So what you wanna do first is just get some painter's tape, and you just want to tape your decal to the board. So I'm just gonna come on here and just make sure we're good side to side here. That looks pretty good to me. You want it to be more like here. And the other thing we want to worry about is how we're looking side to side. So you just want your decal to be nice and straight. I may go a little bit higher with it. Actually, maybe not. I think we're good where we're at. So now I'll go a little bit higher. I don't really like the way the placement was on this one, so just pull the painter's tape off and re-line this one up. Got it about where I want it right there. Just reapply it. Make sure we're good. Now we'll take another piece of painter's tape and wrap around the side. And we just want to make sure that we're nice and straight with the edge here. That looks nice and straight. Just for good measure, I'll put another piece of painter's tape up top on this side, but I'm only putting tape on the left side of the decal. That way I can cut down the middle at the right side of the decal and apply it. All right, so there it is. Our decal is looking nice and centered, and we got tape 3 spots, and I'm just gonna pull it off the backing here. There we go. Get it started, and just pull it off the backing to where your tape is at. So there, we can just leave it like that. Gets a little weird when you get towards the end. If I had longer scissors. All right, there we go. So now we got our backing off, and all we have to do is just slowly apply the decal with our applicator. So we just kind of hold this up, and it's easier if I come from above, but I'm just going to make sure we are nice and even here. All right, there we go. And that's our decal started. And we're just gonna come in with the applicator. And I like to, I'm a righty, so it's easier if I go from above. And just don't put a lot of pressure when you're holding your decal up with your other hand. Just go ahead and swipe back and forth like I'm doing. And just slowly go inch by inch. And at the end, it'll just kind of fall down. Just make sure you get it to your edges. All right, and there's half of it applied, so now we can just come to the back, and you're just carefully gonna pull your painter's tape off so you don't screw up your decal. There's our second piece of painter's tape off, and now we can just take this last piece off. And so really at this point, the only way you can screw this up is if you don't put this decal down straight. So just be aware of how you're placing it when you're putting it down. And I purposely did so I'm going left. I purposely did that first. That way this side will be easier, but all you do is just pull this back, and you could fold it in half if you want so you don't go all the way. But just pull this back and slowly put this down just like we were doing before. And you know, now that I have my good hand, it's much easier to apply it like this, and this is the side you want to make sure is straight. So now we're at the point we can just pull the rest of the backing off. And we're just slowly applying pressure with our applicator. And actually, you'll see here, the nut that's here on this side sticks up a little bit more. So the decal is kind of sticking up around it. All you can do is just work around the edge. And I could cut the decal there, but it's really not worth it. It's back behind the gumball machine. You'll never see it. So just give it a couple pass-throughs with your applicator, and now we're at the point, so we won't have to cut either edge, we won't have to cut the top, we only have to cut the corners. So I perfectly lined it up so we wouldn't have to cut the top or the sides. We got a nice even spacing, so all we have to do is just come in with our X-Acto and just cut the corners. Just be careful because you're kind of fighting the wood here. I like to come from this way. There we go, that's a nice even cut there. We got a little bit hanging out there. Not too great right there. But just try to get a nice cut started, and then you can just come in and clean it up with the X-Acto when you're done. But that's a nice solid cut there. And the wood's kind of coming up here, so we're not getting the best. We can just lift our light here. There we go. Much nicer cut there. All right, there we go. And that's a clean cut right off the side. Just clean our X-Acto off from any adhesive. And now we have the backboard decal ready to go back on the game. So nice and solid cut. It's, you know, perfectly centered the way we want it. It'll just go right in the back of the game, and we'll see how it looks once we put it back on. But we got 5 screws from the bottom of the playfield, and then there is 4 nuts on the back. So I'm gonna go put it back on the playfield and we'll see how it looks. All right, so we got the backboard back installed on the playfield. Like I said, 5 screws from underneath, 4 nuts on the back. Very easy to put it back in place. I mean, the only hard part about it was having to move the ball diverter in the back of the playfield. I just had to loosen some of the 1/4-inch wood screws to get it out of the way in order to be able to get to that screw. But as you can see, the new backboard decal looks awesome back there. It basically continues, let me put the camera up a little bit, continues the design of what's on the speaker panel. So you have the gumball machine, the clock, the door, the girl diving. You have all of that and the star field in the background, and it just looks awesome. So yeah, that about does it for this episode. You know, in this episode we did a complete teardown of the entire playfield. We tore everything down, basically down to almost nothing except for the gumball machine, because it is really a pain to get out of this playfield. But we tore everything down, got all the pop bumper caps off. We cleaned everything with Novus. Then we completely waxed the game, put all the rubbers back on, started putting some LEDs on, cleaned all the plastics, reinstalled the main ramp, got the backboard decal. I mean, we got a lot done this episode, and mainly all we're going to focus on next episode is we got to work on the mini playfield. We're going to do exactly what we did with this. So we're going to clean the mini playfield with some Novus, wax it, new rubbers, put it all back together. Then the mini playfield can go on and drop the wires through back there, hook it all back up, and then it'll just be doing the remainder of the LEDs, which shouldn't take very long. So once we get the mini playfield on, it'll just be LEDs, doing some flashers, and then the drop some new balls in it. I'll get some new instruction cards made that continue the decal down here, and the instruction cards are gonna look awesome as well. But next episode should be the finale. That should be the end of working on the Twilight Zone, and hopefully I'll have another project to work on. Otherwise we'll cover some other things in upcoming episodes. Maybe we'll do a full arcade tour, look at a few of the games that I just finished not too long ago. But yeah, that about does it for this episode. We'll pick up in the next episode of the Twilight Zone restoration. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys soon.